Hi guys, Daniel here from Manchild. I'm by myself today. Max is off doing other things. So what I thought I'd bring you a little bit of a different video today on some drone flying techniques and tips that you might be able to take away and apply to your machine that's going to help you fly and make things look a little bit better and just give you more confidence really. They're going to run through a series of progressions, so a series of drills that you can go away and you can do by yourself or with somebody else, and you can practice and you can make yourself a better operator slash pilot, whatever you want to call yourself. What we're going to do today is we're going to film a lot in manual. Now if you're flying a Mavic, you haven't got that ATI or that manual setting, so you are going to have to do it in GPS. But if you have got the ATI feature or the manual feature that turns off the GPS and makes things a little bit more difficult, you can try that. You can actually put it into manual and you can try doing things out of GPS. Now when you've got the comfort of the GPS feature, again that makes things easier, but we're going to try and push your flying skills today. So first one, let's get cracking. First one, what we're going to do is we're going to find a place to stand. So I've lost a bit of weight, you can tell. All right, so that's me. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the machine off from right here in front of me. Make sure you're a nice safe distance in front of you. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a series of 4 cones. 1, 2, 3, 4, in a nice little box. All right, I'm going to move the machine over to here, and I'm going to try and hover above that box. Now on the first progression, keep it tail in. Right? Make sure you're looking at the back of the aircraft, because then left is left, right is right, forward and backwards, everything's the right way around. It's nice and easy. Okay, so you're going to hover over there, 5 seconds, then you're going to move, hover here, 5 seconds. If you want to make sure you want to know where you are, aim the camera straight down and you'll be able to see the cone underneath you. Right? Then you're going to fly over to the side, hover above that cone. Fly backwards. Okay, always looking at the back of the aircraft, hover above that cone, and then come back round and then hover in the middle. So you're just working a nice box shape, looking at the back of the aircraft all the time. Quite commonly when you're filming commercially or professionally, what they'll ask you to do is they'll ask you to stop above a certain point. They'll say, can you fly to that point and hover above it please? So why that's really good, right, is because you're going to have to hover above that point and you're going to have to stay there. Right? In manual, that's going to be a little bit harder. Today we're blowing about 14 mile/h winds, so it's going to be moving around a little bit. So I'm going to have to be quite active on that right stick to keep the machine central and keep it above my location. Count to 5 in your head, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then move to the next cone and then bring it back to the middle. You can do that one way and then you can do it maybe the other way. All right, that's the first progression. Let's get started. So one thing I do want to just stress is that a lot of these machines now have autonomous flight modes. They have assisted modes to do an orbit. Like on a Mavic, you just set up your image tracking and you can choose your left and your right orbit, and the machine does it all itself. The Typhoon H has orbit point of interest, which is what I'm flying today. But you're never going to learn to be a good pilot unless you practice some of these skills manually. I can't tell you how many times I've been out on a film shoot, right, and I've tried to do something using the technology and it's just said failed, or image tracking, it just loses the subject, or don't get GPS somewhere, or I've been asked to do something indoors, or loads of different reasons. So take the opportunity while you're out flying to practice some of these things. I mean, it makes you a better pilot and it makes you not reliant on the system. So the first thing we need to do is just make sure that when I set these drills up, the wind is behind me. Okay, so when I turn it into ATI or manual, the machine's getting blown away from me. Last thing you want to do is have the machine blown towards you, okay? It wants to be blown away from you, just for safety reasons. Another safety tip, please don't ever fly over your head or behind yourself. You don't want to be doing this, okay? So when you need to establish a flight line, all right, which is a nice safety feature as well, because you can say to people, please don't cross the flight line. Yeah, that's my space, right? So establish a flight line, never fly behind the flight line. All right, make sure the wind is behind you for this particular drill. Whenever you take off, look at the back of the aircraft. Whenever you land, look at the back of the aircraft, right? Makes things a lot easier. So we're going to be using the H today. So what we'll do is we'll get up in the air first, right? And then we'll turn the GPS off. So what we're going to do, we're now going to turn GPS off. As soon as you turn the GPS off, it's going to want to move. Okay, so I'm now flying it manually. The wind's going to affect it. It's going to be affected by centre of gravity, lots of things. So I'm going to now move it above the first cone, or what I think is above the first cone. Again, I'm going to angle the camera down have a quick little looking screen to make sure that I'm over my cone, which I am. Now what's interesting is, as soon as you look down at the screen, the machine's going to move. So from there, I'm now going to fly. I'm going to use the wind to push me down the field till I get above the second cone. Then I'm going to use the elevator to stop myself. Another good telltale sign is at this altitude, I can see the downdraft, okay, on the grass. So there you go, get over the top of the cone. Once I'm happy, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm then going to move over to the other cone, so I'm going to be flying to the left. Going to get over the top of the other cone. Now again, the higher altitude you're at, the easier it's going to be to spot the cones. I'm pretty low at the moment. Okay, so it's a little bit of a silly thing. But for you guys, you can go a little bit higher. Right, so now I'm going to fly backwards. Again, I'm always looking at the back of the aircraft. Above the other cone. Hold it there for 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Keeping it in shot. Then I'm going to move it in front of me. And I'm going to hold it there. Now what we're going to do it nose in. All right, so this is where it's going to get a little bit harder. All right, so now everything's reversed. So this is going to be a lot tougher. Okay, so I'm going to hover over to the right, giving a left input on my sticks. Going to hover over that cone. Now, same thing, use the wind to blow me down the field. Back she goes. That's it. Hovering over that other cone, a little bit too far there. Hovering over that other cone. Now I'm going to come to the left. Again, around about 5 seconds on each. Doesn't have to be. Get that other cone in shot. Now come forward, dropping the nose, flying towards me. Okay, then bringing it back to the middle. And now going around the other way. It's good to know at any point though, yeah? So for example, okay, oh, I've lost it, okay? All I do is just turn my GPS back on and then the machine will stop and she'll sit there nice and happy. A really panic moment, turn the transmitter off. Because regardless of what mode it's in, right, your machine should just automatically, I haven't got a signal anymore, I'm going home. Right, so that's like worst case scenario, turn the transmitter off. What you can do as another progression on from this, all right, is that when you get to the cone, now you don't have to hover, all right? So now fly past the cone. So what are you actually going to do? You're actually working it sort of in this angle, all right? So rather than a box shape, you're now working into a circle. And that's going to take us on to our next progression, which is where we're going to try and orbit some stuff, all right? Get out there and try that. Right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to fly that same route. We're going to get the nose of the aircraft following the airline, all right? So the way we go, that's where the camera's pointing, all right? Okay, here we go. So flying forwards to the first cone. So just working that box shape. You can see the cones appearing in shot. Still got the GPS turned off. I'm having a lot of stick movements here to keep the machine in a straight line. I'm now actually not stopping at the cones, I'm just flying a continuous box all the way around the outside. And this tip is really good. All you need to do, okay, to make this look fluid is 2 stick movements. Okay, you need elevator, so to drop the nose forward, and you need yaw. Okay, left and right on the left stick, just to yaw the machine round and turn the machine round. All right, just to fly around. Right guys, excellent. Next progression as we move on. Right, we're gonna put our cones, we're gonna move our cones to the middle. All right, I'm gonna leave them there just so you can see what I'm on about. Right, so the last drill we did, we were getting into a circular motion with the nose of the aircraft facing the way we want to go all the time. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to get the camera, right, facing the middle. So you're doing like an orbit point of interest, right? So now if we can get rid of the other cones because they're sitting in the middle, right? And I'm going to orbit the cones, but the camera is looking at the middle, right? Now, this is really easy to start off with when you're quite far away, right? Because obviously you've got, from your field of view of the camera, whatever you're orbiting is going to be quite a long way away. So if you lose orientation, it's quite easy to find yourself again. If you're going to orbit close, please make sure that you're a decent altitude, as my English, altitude that you are going to not crash into anyone. For example, when I'm learning, I'm not going to go and ask Max, although that would be really funny, right, to stand in a field while I try and fly, orbit around him like I'm a metre away. It's not really safe, right? So get something like a cone or something like that that you can take with you. It's really easy to transport, right? And then as you get better, get the orbit closer and closer and closer, right, to the point where you're only like a metre in. The skill in this is to be able to do it slowly. Right, all aerial filming stuff, unless you're doing high-speed tracking, looks really good when you're doing things slowly. So we're going to try and do this as slow as possible to orbit that center point, yeah, or whatever you're trying to get. Now, you can try this in GPS to start off with, and then try it in manual. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to balance 3 stick movements. You're going to have to balance your yaw movement, okay? You're going to have to balance your cyclic, so your left or your right, and your forward and your backwards, okay? So you're going to have to balance those 3 stick inputs to get the orbit really, really nice and smooth, all right? You shouldn't have to adjust the altitude. If you do, you're gonna have to balance 4 stick movements, all right? Let's have a go. So next one we're gonna do is we're gonna do orbit like a point of interest, or orbit an object. So I've put the cones in the middle now, so the cones are all sitting out there, right? And what we're gonna do is we're gonna start out quite high, quite far away, and we're gonna orbit that point, that center point, and then we're gonna change direction and orbit the other way. As you get better, try and get closer and closer, all right? That's the key. So you get the money shot. So again, probably want to have the angle of the gimbal about 45 degrees on this one. So GPS off. So yeah, it's about balancing your stick movements. Again, really, really hard to do in the wind. Yeah, because you've got wind hitting you from all different angles, depending on whereabouts in the orbit you are. So you have to compensate. What we're doing is we're now getting real world application. So we're basically putting our camera where we want it to be. The machines that we're using are basically flying cameras, so that's the most important thing, is we get smooth shots with the cameras facing where we want to go. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move on to like an open scene or a closed scene kind of thing. So I'm going to use my cone again. We're going 3-dimensional now, you can see. Thick. Right, and we're going to have something to start above. So I'm going to use a tree. All right, so that's my tree. I'm going to get my machine above that object. I'm going to try and keep it there. You can use if someone's there with you, you can use cues. They can say, oh, okay, go, like action, or however you want to do it, right? So it's above my target. What I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and fly a perfect, absolute perfect straight line down to my object. Okay, all right, and I'm going to hover there. Try and keep it center frame all the time, and try and get that beautiful, really nice, slow transition down to the object and then hold in front of it. This is much easier in GPS, right? But if you can try this in manual as well, it's a really good thing to try. Right, so you can come down, okay, and then you're going to do it in reverse. So you're going to fly above and try and stop above that tree. So what you can do is once you get to the point where you're happy, aim the camera down and see if you're above the object that you started above. Right? So that is a really nice filming technique, and it's what directors ask for all the time. They always say, right, start above there, okay, and I want you to fly down within 2 meters of the target. and then I want you to fly back, and I want you to finish above that object right there. Right, so this is a really good drill for trying that. Let's go and try it. Next one, what we're going to do is we're going to do a like a closed scene, open scene kind of feel, right? So again, we're going to get the gimbal angled around about 45 degrees, so it angles kind of straight down to the object, and that will depend on the type of ascent you want to have. All right, so if you want a really shallow one, you want the gimbal more of a 0 degree. If you want to have a really steep climb, you have to have the gimbal facing down a bit more. So the gimbal has to be relative to the angle of the open closed scene kind of feel you want to do. Right, so again, get your object center frame. All right, now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to climb up to around about 40 or 50 feet and try and get the line as straight as possible. So out of GPS, and here we go. Right, so our last one, this is our last drill. You are going to need to employ the services of a friend, a family member, or someone who you don't like very much, whatever you want, but you're going to need to employ the services of someone, because we're going to just work on a tracking shot now. Right, so again, this is me. I'm now going to get my subject to start here and finish here, right? Straight line to start off with, right? Then what you're going to do, you're going to work on different angles on how to shoot them, right? Shoot. When I say shoot them, I mean film them, all right? I'm not like, you know what I mean, right? So they're going to walk in a straight line, okay, down to the other point. And what I'm going to do to start off with, I'm going to get the machine right here, and I'm going to track them from the side. The camera will be facing the subject all the time. So it's a side tracking shot. So you have to be really, really gentle, because at walking speed, you're not putting a lot of input in at all, right? Once you've done the side tracking shot, what I want you to try and do is try a tracking shot from the back. So you are tracking them as they're walking away from you. And then you're going to try a tracking shot walking in front. So you're going to shoot 3 angles, right? You're going to shoot a side angle, you're going to shoot an angle from the rear, and an angle from the front. So you've got 3 angles to try this from. What you can do is, as a next progression, okay, some of these progressions I'm not going to show you out there, but this is things that you can think about, is what you can do, you can get your, let me get me board rubber. You can get your target or your subject to say, right, what I want you to do, be a bit erratic in your walking now. So walk like this. Right, that's going to have balance. That's going to allow you to balance different stick inputs. If I'm doing a tracking shot from the side and they start walking towards me, rather than just using my left and right stick, I'm going to have to pull away a little bit. So I'm going to have to back up, and I'm going to have to fly the machine in a similar sort of scenario. Can you do that from the back? You can do that from the front, right? And it's going to make you a little bit more reactive on the sticks and just give you a target to shoot at. Now, once you've done that, the next progression will be vary the speeds. Tell them to walk a little bit quicker, or maybe even if they're a little bit fitter, maybe even jog, right? So you can film something that's moving a little bit quicker. A lot of directors, what they need is they need slow tracking shots of people walking, all right? So walking along a riverbank, walking along a mountain, they need someone to track alongside them, or from the rear, or from the front, to get that really nice tracking shot. So let's go out to the field now, let's go practice. Yeah, I'm back. So now I'm going to film him from the back. And they're going to get now factory field to walk back towards me. Yeah. So one thing I do want to stress is that this is quite a difficult thing to do, right? It's very, very hard. So you are going to get frustrated. You don't want to have big stick movements. Imagine you're operating the right stick around the middle of a 5p piece, all right? On something like the Typhoon H, I can turn down my rates to make everything slower. You can do the same on other machines as well. So you might want to do that. The reason I'm not doing that today is because the wind is blowing 15, 16 miles an hour, right? And I sometimes haven't got enough movement on the cyclics to do what I want to do, right? So I've got the rates turned all the way up. If it's a nice calm day, turn the rates down, definitely. Get that limited movement, right? But you are going to get frustrated. This is quite difficult to do, especially as the wind picks up, right? The second thing is get out in an open space. Yeah, you can see here, there's not a lot of things to hit, right? So get out in an open space and have the luxury of knowing how to turn your GPS back on. Bang, because that's your safety net right there. Turn the GPS back on, safety. Right guys, really hope you enjoyed this, all right? Please subscribe, come back and check us out. We're going to be doing a lot more flying tips. Flying is a huge passion of mine, right? It's not just about the filming, all right? So we're going to be doing a lot more advanced flying tips on stuff that you can use. So yeah, please subscribe, come back and check us out.